And oh my gosh, it's another Friday in February. February is a short month, so if you have too many Fridays, the month is done. It's hard to believe we're a month and a half into this year already. So 2022, it's not brand new any longer. I mean, we've been doing it for a while, so we kind of know what we're getting here. So yeah, let's enjoy. I'm gonna let a couple people get on really quick, and then we will get started and look to see if I can see anybody out there in Facebook land and YouTube. Simulcasting live both on YouTube and Facebook. Reports on housing, and just appreciate you all being here. So you're lucky that you're here early because we're just going to dive right in. So those people that are late, they're going to have to go backwards in time, and let's just go ahead and begin. Hello, Nancy. How are we doing? Great to see you, Nancy. Or great to see that you're on here. So, anyways, let's go ahead and begin. And, yep. Oh, first of all, before we get to me, a wonderful, beautiful, awesome daughter.
Hey.
Let's go ahead. Say hello to the masses. I'll let you get a big photo of you. Hey.
Hello.
What's happening?
Nothing. Just we're having Zeke's party outside right now because he just turned 4.
Yeah, they have a 4-day weekend. When I was younger, we had 2 President's Day weekends. Now we have a President Day weekend. It's like a presidential weekend, and we have Friday and Monday off. Pretty cool, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so pretty much having fun, have no school, jump house.
Yeah.
Little cake, little pizza action. Pretty fun. That's what we got planned. And we have a scrimmage planned too.
Yeah.
Right here, Rocket. Oh my gosh. And speaking of birthdays, what do I have here? Oh my gosh. This is it. It's my birthday boy. Zeke, show everybody how old you are. Show it up. Come on. Be proud. So he had his actual birthday on Tuesday, and then we said, "Oh, we're having a birthday party today." And I go, "You remember how old you are?" And he goes, "Yeah," because he thinks he has a birthday on Tuesday, that he has one on Friday, that he turned 4 on Tuesday and turning 5 on Friday. But no, we're still 4, right?
Yeah, still this.
Still 4, yeah. Do you have anything you want to say to everybody?
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
That.
Yeah, you have a bounce house. Yes. Lots of fun, huh? Castle bounce house. Mommy made a castle cake. Everything's castle themed with swords and all that stuff. All right, buddy. Thank you for joining us. And who do we have over here? Why, we have Luna and Athena. Wow. Holy smokes. Luna and Athena. This is our dog. She's awesome. So you having fun today?
Yeah.
They're just bouncing around, having fun, have the bounce house all day. More family coming later. It's all good,
they're
right?
coming soon. Really soon. They're coming like 5.
So we have soccer and running this weekend. That's what we do as a family. Run track and do soccer. So anyway, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, kids. Now let's go back to the program. And yes, this is me, Stephen Thomas. I'm a quantitative economics and decision sciences major. And yep, that's what I do. I am a housing analyst. Absolutely enjoy it. Love doing it. Love hearing what everybody else has to say about the housing market. Read something recently. I think it was forgot where I saw it, but saw it online that it's 70% of everybody out there thinks that we're in for a housing crash, and another 40% think that of real estate people in the real estate industry think we're that housing crash is a possibility. I'm gonna have to do something on the housing crash theme. That's not what this theme is about today. Want you to know that nothing that I'm seeing points to a housing crash. If I did, I'd let everybody know, but just not seeing that right now. So, but I am a housing analyst. Absolutely enjoy doing it. I cannot get enough of numbers and geeking out on stats and listening to what people have to say. And people say I'm cutting in and out. So if that happens, yeah, no crash possible demand. Actually, Larry, it's not because of demand. Larry, the no crash is because it's because of the fact that we have very little inventory. That's driving things more than anything else, is no inventory. And so let's get the show further on the road. Oops, did I put on Chihuahua? Yeah, somebody said that I have a Chihuahua. It's half Chihuahua, half Dachshund is what this little bad boy is. And yep, our company's reports and housing. It's your local real estate snapshot. And what I'm going to ask everybody to do is I love everybody being on Facebook, but I would really prefer everybody being on YouTube and smashing the like button. Like and share it on Facebook, but also like and subscribe on YouTube, because need to get the YouTube algorithm up so that I get in front of more people. I need to get in front of consumers and people like that. The reason for that is because I want to my whole goal in putting together reports on housing is to try to disseminate as much truth as possible about economics of housing, as well as properly set expectations. And out there is so much misinformation. I just need to fight the misinformation by putting up good content. So that's what I'm asking for you to do. Like the videos and subscribe to the videos, subscribe to Reports on Housing on Facebook, subscribe to it on YouTube, and just get it in front of more people, because that's what it's about. It's about getting the truth out there, because there's plenty of misinformation. Now, a couple funnies. Out looking for new listings. It's like a desert. Kind of funny, not funny, right? And then this has to be my real estate guardian angel. I have to have a couple funny things, that's for sure. More foreclosures coming. Now, I can bet that there are going to be more foreclosures than there were in 2021. I'll bet anybody, single-handedly. This is the easiest bet on that I can make. And that's because there was a foreclosure moratorium that was lifted toward it during I think it was in September, was lifted, the foreclosure moratorium, but it takes a while for the churn to even begin. So we are going to see more foreclosures out there. It's not going to be anything like this, because the spigot will be turned on, and everybody remembers back to the Great Recession. That's the big thing. Wow, the Great Recession. I remember the Great Recession. That was awful. And I remember the number of foreclosures. Everybody was being foreclosed on. There were so many short sales. There was so many distress. It was like banks were running the entire real estate process in the United States. There was a time period where there was more in escrow that was a short sale and foreclosure in Southern California than there were regular listings for a short period of time. And that's how bad it got. And so everybody's thinking in their head this big, gigantic wave of foreclosures. And but let's peel back the onion a little bit, and let's go a little bit deeper. Let's dig into the data and really look at the data, because the data is very revealing as to what really is going on. Data does not lie. It can kind of misguide you, and I'll show you that what that is later on in this broadcast, because of percentages and things like that. It can be can like open eyeballs, but when it really shouldn't. But I'll talk about that. But let's look at the numbers. This is where distress has been in all of Southern California from January 1st of 2021 to where we are today. And you can see right now we're below 80. It's like 76 short sales and foreclosures for all of Southern California right now. And that's total for the 5 counties that we're tracking, right? So this is what I think we could have. We could have more foreclosures come on. I don't know. I really don't think it's going to get all the way to 500, but let's say it goes from here to 500, because we're at like 76. The wheels start to churn, and we get more foreclosures and short sales. Well, if you see that, if we go from 76 to that 500 level, that's a 550% increase. That 550% increase sounds like a lot. You see it in the papers, 500% increase. Even if it's 300, if it's half, it'll be like 250% increase in short sales and foreclosures. See, I told you there's going to be a lot of foreclosures coming, and people are going to be talking about it. There'll be YouTube channels devoted to why it's going to crash, and this is just the beginning. This is a sign of things to come. And that's just because the spigot has been opened that allows people, the people that are still trapped, and there will be people that are trapped regardless of what kind of economy we're in. If we're in a great economy and a great housing market, you still have foreclosures and short sales regardless. It's just that there was a while where you couldn't even do any foreclosures or short sales. So it dialed back to a trickle. And this is that same 550. So you see this is going from the 76 to 500 right there. And if I peel this back, and this is just projected. It's not even going to beat this projections. But anyway, if I show you where this is at, this is where the 500 is at. And it's equivalent to where we were just prior to the pandemic was 500 short sales and foreclosures in all of Southern California. And pales in comparison to where we were even in 2012. And 2012 paled in comparison to where we were during the midst of the Great Recession from 2007 through 2011. This is coming down. I started tracking all of Southern California data in 2012, but I have Orange County that goes back to 2004, and this thing was way higher prior to 2012. So, but just know that in 2012 we were at 12,000. We're talking about increasing from that 76 to 500 at the worst case scenario. And if I draw a line across, that's exactly where we were prior to the pandemic, is right around that 500 threshold. So, but if I pull back that projected and you see it, this is where we are today. Pretty much almost nothing is a distressed short sale or foreclosure across the board, if you see this. And then there is forbearance. And these questions, keep on putting them in there. Nancy Miller put in a question. I'll be answering those momentarily, but I want to go through the broadcast first, and then I'll answer this because maybe some of the actual presentation will answer it. If it doesn't, we'll be more than happy to answer this afterwards. But anyways, we have, as far as forbearance is concerned, Black Knight does a report that comes out every single month. They skipped the month of January. So this was 2 months coming. At the start of this month, they showed what happened to active forbearances and what's happening on a month-to-month basis. Forbearances continue to drop. They dropped below 1 million towards the end of 2021, and now they're at 836,000 across the United States. That's the number of people in forbearance. 93% of these 836,000 people have 10% plus equity, which means that if push comes to shove, they can actually sell their home if they're still in a pickle after they come out of forbearance. There were 4.3 million people in forbearance at one time. That was the height in June of 2020. Yet there were a total of 7.9 million people that actively took advantage of forbearance, where they stopped making payments until they came out of it. So what happened to those 7 million people that came out? Well, this is what Black Knight does, this big analysis. And what it is 4.1 million, or 59%, are performing, which means that they went to the workout unit after they came out of forbearance, and they came up with either they paid it in a lump sum, or they paid it in paid what they owed in an installment plan, or deferred it to the end of the loan. That was 59%, 4.1 million. There was another 2.1 million, or 30%, that actually paid it off, meaning they came into some money or they sold their house. Something happened where they paid it off completely. They could have even been current for a little bit and then refinanced. So you could see this as 89% either paid it off or are performing after they came out of forbearance. There is another 469,000, 7%, that are currently working with the workout unit, because there's a number of people that are coming out of forbearance all the time. And these are the people that are currently working with the workout unit to figure out, do I come up with some sort of plan to continue to make payments, or do I sell my house and pay it off? That type of thing. So they're going to follow in one of those big, giant pieces of the pie. There's another 263,000, that is it, or 4% of everybody that came out of forbearance that are currently in foreclosure, no longer working with a workout unit. Not in foreclosure, but they're delinquent. The foreclosure process hasn't began. The ones that are truly in foreclosure across the United States is 59,000, 1%. So it's really 5% out of all those people. 95% pretty much going to be fine, and it's boiled down to 5% that are having trouble. And this is no kind of a wave. This is nothing. I showed you where we were where we were prior to the pandemic in Southern California. And that's where we're going to kind of make our way towards for the rest of the country. So there will be more, but it's still not that many compared to where we were even a few years ago, or definitely during the Great Recession. Really what forbearance was is this giant bridge that bridged the gap between when we were having all this hardship and people were at home and couldn't work and needed to pay bills, for them to get to the other side. And it really worked well. And there, in the process, you could see across the United States, there's a lot of equity in the United States. As a matter of fact, this is a tappable equity chart, which means that if you tap your equity across the United States, that if you tap your equity, you could still have 20% in your property. That is what tappable equity is called. And we have $9.9 trillion across the United States of tappable equity, which is the most ever. And as far as lending standards are concerned, if you want to compare to prior to the Great Recession to where we are today, you can see lending standards were awful on the left. And then after the recession began, it was much harder to get a loan. And dead people and dogs got loans on the left-hand side. There was a lot of ARM, adjustable rate mortgages, and there was just a lot of fraud that was going on, and zero down loans where you didn't have to put any money down. You didn't have to show any documentation. I can go on and on and on. It was ugly on the very left-hand side where it's red compared to where it is today. You have to actually qualify for a loan. And if you see where homes are still actually affordable today, across the United States, is at 25.8% is the monthly principal and interest payment as a percentage of the income. So that's 25.8%. And it was at 34% in 2007, right when we were going into the Great Recession. The normal lending standard is 28%. So you can see we're right where we kind of want to be across the United States. This has eroded over time to get to this 25.8%, but it's still not as bad as where we were way back when prior to the Great Recession. And that's because what we do is we've seen values go up like crazy, but that's because we just focus on price. And you can't just focus on price when you're looking at affordability. You just absolutely can't, because you can go back in time and you got to look at a couple other factors. That is income, and incomes are continuously changing and evolving, and interest rates. I can tell you in the United States and in Southern California in 1970, the median priced home was $23,000, and the interest rate was 8.5%, and the average the household income was $9,975 per year. So when you go back in time, yeah, it looked awful back then. Compared, can you imagine when it went from 23,000 to 100,000, or let alone 500,000, or in Southern California's case, up to 750, $1 million. Shoot, there's counties where there's nothing, you can't get anything for under $1 million. Orange County being one of those. It's kind of like the Bay Area. So, but you can't just focus on the price. You got to look at incomes. You got to look at rates. And across the United States, the national delinquency rate, this was on many YouTube videos that were out there when this thing looked ugly back when we first went into the pandemic, and they were still using it even a year later. But this shows you what the national delinquency rate is across the board. I would dare any of them to put this up there now and say, yeah, totally wrong. I shouldn't have been using this, because look at where we are today as far as the national delinquency rate. Right prior to COVID, we were at a really, really low level. It was at such a low level. It was like a low level that we hadn't seen in like 50 years. And now we're making our way back towards that very, very low level. And you're wondering, well, what happened? If so many people went into forbearance, how in the world did that really bridge the gap? If they weren't making payments, it doesn't really make sense when you think about it. But you have to understand how much values were going up. And if you look at an average home, and yes, they did miss payments when they went into forbearance, but they had rising equity. So let's take a look at what the missed payments were compared to the rising equity. So let's take this example of a $750,000 home, and had a $675,000 loan. So they have about 10% equity, right? So let's just assume that it had a 3.5% interest rate. That would be a $3,031 monthly payment for principal and interest. I'm not going to look at all the other stuff, but it just gives you an idea as an example. So 1 year of forbearance is missing $36,372 in payments. Sounds like a lot of money, very hard to make up, is what people are thinking. However, you work with the workout unit to decide what you're going to do with that $36,000. You can put it at the very end of the loan, or come up with a payment plan. There's a lot of different things you could do, but home values have surged up 20% in a year. And I even have a example. Let's just pretend it's 10%, but it's been about 20% in a year. And that $750,000 house grew to a $900,000 house with appreciation. That's what 20% appreciation looks like in a $750,000 house. And that's a $150,000 gain in a year. And if you peel this back further, you look at the appreciation of 20%, forbearance in 1 year, you're looking at $150,000 in appreciation minus the $36,000 in all the payments you missed. And at the end of the day, you actually have an extra $114,000 extra in equity in your home. So you can see how forbearance bridged that gap, because this is a very healthy housing market. It came out of forbearance and boom, they're off to the races because it's still doing quite well. And even if you would peel this back and say, okay, they went into forbearance, because you can go to forbearance for a year, you can even do it for a total of a year and a half. Then let's take 150,000 minus $54,000 in missed payments. That's the same example, but it's now a year and a half. You've got 18 months of missed payments, and that's 54,000. You're still walking away with, you have an extra $96,000 in equity, even though you weren't making payments and missed $54,000 in payments. And let's just pretend that there was appreciation of just 10%. This would have worked even if there was 10% appreciation in this forbearance, because let's say, and forbearance of 1.5 years. So if we only had a 10% appreciation and forbearance of 1.5 years, which we didn't have 10% appreciation, we had more, we know, but that would be a $75,000 increase in value of the home, minus the $54,000 in missed payment is still net $21,000 extra in the house value. So you can understand how during this time period, how it bridged the gap for everybody that went into forbearance, the vast majority of them. So that helps you understand how come there's not going to be any kind of wave of foreclosures. Yes, we're going to get an increase because people get in a pickle and we shut off the foreclosures and we turned it back on. So yes, there naturally are going to be more this year, and we'll hear stories of 250% more, but it's not going to be as bad as what you think. The other side of this equation is you have to have job loss and a negative economy, but mainly you have to have a lot of people out of work for them to for it to really be a problem. And not when they go into forbearance, they come out of it, they don't have a job, and then at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch that come on at the same time, so that there's a wave of foreclosures because there's a glut of homes. We don't have that, and we don't have a problem on the job side of the equation, because you need job loss in order to have any kind of drops in values. And the job situation, if you could see this, that red line that says 2020, that was the pandemic. And you can see the red line, how quickly it's the fastest recovery from a shock. And this was what we call an exogenous shock, this shock of the pandemic and shutting down the economy, but bringing back the jobs. You can see by the time we get to around the fall of this year, we're going to be back to the even. And in 1990, it took us 5 years to get back to that. And in 2007, it took like 8 years to get back to the line. So it took a long time to get all those jobs back. But you could see that this pandemic and COVID, there was a little two-month recession, but man, we came back, and these are what we call V-shaped recoveries. This is still very V-shaped compared to prior downturn. So it's looking really good. And you can see, as far as the unemployment rate's concerned, we're at 3.9% right now. It's actually, I think it should say 4%, because January they came out with it. It should say 4%. Because they went from 3.9% to 4%. And that's because there were a lot more people that came back to work into the workforce. So we're missing a lot of workers, and we've heard that story. But now what you haven't heard most recently is there's a lot of workers coming back into the workforce that were just stopped looking altogether. So unemployment rate actually at 4%. That dials us back all the way to January of 2019 was the last time we were here. And so we're getting back to normal levels, because in January of 2019, I can guarantee nobody was complaining about where unemployment was back then. And that's how strong we have come back in such a short period of time. And another thing to keep in mind is there are a boatload of job openings. We're at 10 million right now, and we have not been at this pace before for a very, very long time. And we have that many job openings, and it has skyrocketed, and it's stuck right about that 10 million job openings level. And if you see this, actually 10.9 million, close to 11 million. And if you see the number of unemployed versus the number of job openings, there's a gap. As a matter of fact, there are more jobs than there are job seekers. And there are 0.7 0.7 worker for every job that's opened. You don't have less than one person. So what that means is there are far more jobs than there are people looking for jobs. And it's kind of like at a record territory how low it is. And it's extremely hot as far as this metric is, the number of job seekers per job opening. 0.7 is just far too low. And you can see that job market is really, really strong. So that job market side of thing is really strong. So it is housing. The two together, you're just not going to see that wave of foreclosures. And the foreclosure situation is much different. You can see in 2021, it dialed back to almost nothing. In 2019, we had 277,000 across the United States. And you could see during the Great Recession, we were in the millions. And we're not even get close to anything like that. So for all those people holding their breath and waiting for a foreclosure or short sale, it's just not going to happen. It is not happening. So now let's get into the housing market. I got updated statistics that I think you're going to find somewhat interesting. But first I want to thank our wonderful sponsor. And you guys all know who this is. It's my buddy, your buddy, Kevin Buddy at Monarch Coast Financial. And Kevin Buddy deals with more than one kind of borrower, and with more than one kind of borrower, there's of course more than one kind of loan. It deals with everything from full documentation loans to alternative documentation loans to investor financing and even private money loans. So for everything from full doc to private money and everything in between. And experience counts, and he has loads of experience. He's been doing this since 1976. And he has a lot of knowledge. I love talking to him about economics. He really knows his stuff as well. He's been doing this for a very long time. So my buddy, your buddy at Monarch Coast Financial, you can contact him as well, 949-422-2075. That's 949-422-2075. And let's get back to the housing market. Yep, little nutty, little crazy, this housing market that we've been dealing with now for over, it's been 2 years almost since we've been in this pandemic. It's been crazy, and it's a supply and demand problem. And I called it before. We have a supply catastrophe. There's just nothing on the market. This was updated. It's updated every week. Compliments of Altos Research. He does a fantastic job. He pointed out that in the low that we've ever seen across the United States is 307,000 homes. We should really be at about 1 million homes. That's where Stephen Thomas and a lot of housing analysts would be happy at about 1 million homes. Right in April of 2021, we hit 307,000. This week, when he announces this every Monday on a YouTube video, and we still haven't hit a bottom yet for how low the inventory can go. And we're at 249,560 active listings across the United States. That is just too low of a number. It's probably going to bottom out sometime this month. Last year, it kept on falling a little bit longer, but I imagine that it's going to bottom out soon. I've got my fingers crossed because that's what I'm hoping for as far as this market's concerned. I know that in Southern California, the active list inventory is actually rising. And speaking of that, let's get into it. You can see on the right-hand side where I'm pointing, there is the little rise. You could hardly see it, so squint, but I'll make it a little bit easier for you to look at it. Today, we're at 12,701. We actually went up 427 homes, which is up 3%. Now, prior to COVID, 2017 to 2019, it also does the 3% increase. So we're doing what we did prior to COVID. And this is the first time that this trend line has actually done this since we started COVID. So you could see last year was the red line. We kept on going down until we bottomed out in April. And that was an all-time low until we started off this year. But we are continuing to go up, which is a good sign, because I couldn't imagine being any lower than we already were. It was the largest rise for this time of the year actually since 2018. That's good news. Last year, we were at 16,271. It's 28% higher than where we were, than where we are right now. And the 3-year average prior to COVID, that's 2017 to 2019. I like to compare to when everything was a little bit more normal. And that we should be right around 35,000 homes on the market. So you can understand 12,700 is far, far too low. That 3-year average is nearly triple where we are today. And part of the problem in building inventory is there's not enough homes coming on the market right now. And so the buyers that are in the marketplace, it's going on the market right into escrow. And SoCal demand Yeah, it's like this big line down the street just to see properties. I keep on hearing it. It continues to be true. I'll let you know if I hear anything different. The fuel were the low interest rates. We don't really have the low interest rates that were record lows anymore. We're right now dancing right at about 4%. That's what the latest Freddie Mac mortgage market survey that came out yesterday talked about. But really now the fuel is a scarcity of goods, kind of like toilet paper at the beginning of this pandemic, or cars that we're dealing with right now. If you want to buy a new car, you have to pay a premium above the MSRP. That's kind of what's going on with housing. With so few homes on the market, we have our own supply chain problem of houses. And if you see this, still, I know everything is selling kind of like an auction. Everything's selling over asking. And this is the update from the California Association of Realtors, January of 2022. The sales above the list price ratio for January is at 57.3%. So it has been dialing down, but you have to understand that if you look at prior years, this is what it does almost every year. It kind of does this, and then starting in February or March, and I think February is going to be higher than January, it starts to rise and continues to rise, and it'll rise at a pretty fast clip too going forward. So either the rise starts in March, or we're going to see it when they announce February's numbers in about a month from now. And my guess is we're already going to start to see this ratchet up from 57, get to 60, get all the way up to 70% really quick by the time we get to April. So this is where it is right now. 57.3% of all closed sales in the month of January sold above their list price. And the median time on market is 12 days for everything that's sold in the state of California. And the sales list price ratio is 101.2%. And I imagine this is also going to rise now that the market is even getting more feverish and we're reaching these records. Because demand, this is a snapshot of just the last 30 days of escrows. I have to look at a snapshot rather than all escrow activity because there's some escrows that linger a lot longer. So I just want to look at the most recent escrow activity. And from that, it was at 15,234 as of today. That's up 9% or 1,321 pending sales in the last 2 weeks. If you see the yellow line, it's kind of like a muted line. And that is because we in Southern California placed 21% fewer homes on the market in January compared to the 3-year average prior to COVID. We really didn't place a lot of homes on the market in January. That would have translated to more properties in escrow over the last 4 weeks. So that's kind of a problem. I haven't done February yet because I wait till the end of the month to do projections for where the number of missing for sale signs for the month of February. Last year at this time, we were 18,606, which is 22% higher as far as pending sales are concerned. And the 3-year average is 15,355, very close to where we are today. So we have way less inventory and just about the same demand level with such a limited inventory makes the market extremely hot. So even if you place the same number of escrows as we normally do prior to the pandemic, we just don't have enough product. So it makes the market crazy. Everybody's bumping into each other. We have lines going out the door and we have multiple offer situations. So how fast is this market? Well, pretty darn fast. And the expected time, place your home on the market. When are you opening up escrow? Not closing, opening up escrow. Today is at 25 days. For all of Southern California, went down 1 day in 2 weeks. Lowest level ever was April 1st at 23 days. We're very close to our lowest level ever. And this is the time of year where we continue to go down. Last year at this time, we were at 26 days, very similar to where we were, where we are today. So not much of a difference. The 3-year average is 69 days. So that is where it should be, right above a hot seller's market. We will make our way to a hot seller's market. That's on average what we do by the time we get to March. But we're in an insane market right now. And Los Angeles is at a 31-day expected market time. It went down 1 day in the last 2 weeks. It's at a new record level. This is an all-time record low for LA. Orange County is at 20 days. It went down 3 in the last 2 weeks. Also a new record. It ties the 20 days, which it had at December. So it's actually a tied record. And Riverside's at 21 days. down 2 days in the last 2 weeks, and not a record though. They were in the teens before, and so was San Bernardino. They're at 28 days, down 2 days in the last 2 weeks. San Diego's at 19 days, never been in the teens, and there you go, new record, down 2 in the last 2 weeks. And if you want a copy of this, I'll shoot you off a PDF copy of this presentation. I'll get it to you right away. You can contact by email, or you can put it in the chat. I'd be more than happy to do that. But you need to be a subscriber. And if you want to subscribe, you can just go to reportsonhousing.com. You click on subscribe. And we have reports that dot all over Southern California. In May, we'll be in the Bay Area. And then January of next year, we'll be in the Phoenix area. And then February of next year, we will be, a year from now, we will be in Vegas. And it's $15 per month or $150 per year. And you get a month free if you sign up utilizing that coupon code February. And the most recent report that came out was just about 2 weeks ago, Going, Gone. There's a new report that comes out this coming up week. And I think I'm going to talk about the potential shift if we have interest rates that stay the same. That's what we'll talk about. And that's all I have. But I do want to answer some questions that a few of you guys presented. And let's see. If I dial back, I remember Nancy Miller asked a question. Let's see, what's the question? What about the increased rate on mortgages coming on April 1st for mortgages above $647,000? No one seems to be talking about it. Yeah, you know what? You're right, Nancy. No one is talking about it. It's just, but you have to understand, we have such a limited inventory that right now everybody's willing to pay this extra amount. What she's talking about is the high balance. So in LA, Orange County, and San Diego, but San Bernardino and Riverside have a threshold of $647,000. That is where it's government backed, and the government will back it, and then the mortgage-backed securities are sold off to the secondary market. The government guarantees it, right, at $647,000, and which is great. So there's that $647,000, that level. Well, that level exceeds that. It's up to $970,000 in both LA and Orange County, and it's like 800. I can't remember, 60 or 830. I can't remember off the top of my head. In San Diego County, and that's called high balance conventional loan limits. Now that higher balance, they're going to start charging points April 1st. What that will do, Nancy, is they're just going to absorb that in the interest rate, and it'll be a little bit higher of an interest rate. So know that if you put anything down, if you put 20% down, then it's not going to be as big of a fee for the points that you pay for that high balance loan. But that high balance loan, if you put less than 20% down, yeah, it's going to be more of more points that you're going to end up paying. And when that will be absorbed with a higher interest rate. We have so much demand right now that it's not going to move the needle. But you have to understand, yes, interest rates have risen to the point where it's getting a lot more expensive. It is eroding affordability, and I will do a program later on about affordability. But this is not going to move the needle yet. And this is one of those programs that I don't know if they're going to continue to do it down the road. Usually they take a look at this like a year later and say, hey, was this a good idea? And they're going to get a lot of feedback to the contrary. But it's going to take them a while to unwind anything like that. So let's see. Yeah, so Denise Kern says, but isn't the lack of foreclosures because there was a moratorium on foreclosures? If you follow my whole entire thing, you see how the lack of foreclosures was because anybody that was in a pickle and was jobless or anything along those lines were able to place their home in forbearance. And then as everything got better and they got their jobs back and they went out of forbearance, they could then go ahead and work with the workout unit to what they're going to do with those missed payments, which they either made a payment plan, paid it in a lump sum, or deferred it to the end of the loan. And then they continue to make their payments again. And when they continue to make their payments, they could even down the road do a refinance of the property down the road as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that could be done, or they could have sold their house. But they have so much equity that when they were not paying for that year, the payments they missed were this big, but the equity that they gained was this big, so that if they had to go and sell, they had even more equity to work with. So if you understand that, Deneen, I'm sorry, I think I said Denise, Deneen, if you understand that, you can watch this thing again and you'll understand that it put them, actually, they were in a better equity position when they came out of forbearance than when they went in. And that's the secret behind why everything looks so good and why we're not going to have that wave of foreclosures. And let's see if we have Marcy. So is that 5% of 7 million in Southern California, 350,000 that are truly in an unresolved mortgage delinquency? Yeah, I don't know where you're getting your number. I'd have to take a look at that. Everything that all the analysis that we've done, there's not going to be any wave of foreclosures. Somebody might be making boo about something. There's a lot of people that were talking about the unresolved mortgage delinquency, the people that were across the United States that were still working with the workout units. That doesn't even equal that 350,000, or it's right around there, 400,000 that are working with the workout unit. There's not going to be any wave of foreclosures in California. You can understand intuitively, California has gone up the most, so that if you were in forbearance, you were in a pickle. I mean, you were gaining equity this whole entire time that you weren't making payments. So a lot of these people that could potentially go down the foreclosure route, you might want to take a look at them and see, hey, you know what? Knock on their door and be the hero, because they can actually, they're probably have equity to work with where they can sell their home. So I just don't see it in the numbers. I don't know specifically what you're talking about. So maybe you can link to the article or something that you are talking about, because I don't know what you're referring to, this 5% of 7 million in Southern California, the 300 that are truly in an unresolved mortgage delinquency. Can we have some of your charts? Yes, you can have my charts. If you're a subscriber, you can just go ahead and forward it my direction. Send me, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. Can folks that miss $36,000 of payments over 1 year on a $750,000 home in your example actually get their hands on 80% of the loan to value of the increased value? Wow, that's a mouthful. You know what, Robert, I will take a look at your question and answer it. So just give me some time. But if you have more questions, put them in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them offline. And I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to go be with my son, who's jumping in a jumping house. And we have more kids, some of the older kids that are going to jump as well. And we're going to have lots of pizza and that good stuff. So we will see you on the other side. Have a fantastic holiday presidential weekend. And we will see you next Friday at 3 p.m. Thanks much.